slipped 2 stitches into the very last stitch here, because remember we had that chain 3 that came around the bend. So what I'm going to do is, you can certainly slip stitch to join chain 1 and cut off, but a lot of times I like to use a slightly different method that many of you may have seen me do before. So I'm just going to pull this up a little bit, and I'm just going to snip my yarn, a little bit of a tail there, and I'm actually just going to pull that right up, and I'm going to just thread it through my yarn needle here. And I'm going to find the top of that chain, which is right there. And I'm just going to insert, and I'm just going to insert right through the top and pull that through. So see, that'll cinch that corner shut, and then I'm going to come back around and I'm going to go down through the top of this last stitch here. Yeah, so I'm not going to go under, I'm going to go down the center. And so this is kind of what I call the invisible join, because it makes it look like, so when you pull that through, see that? You can't even really tell where it stops and where it ends, because it just looks like a regular stitch. So that's one of my favorite things to do when I'm working on projects in the round. And then once I'm around the back here, I'm just going to weave it in a few times. And then I'm just going to continue to weave it until I've hidden my tail. And once I'm done that, then we're ready to sew up our bag. Okay, so I finished weaving in my end. And so what you're going to do, I've already pinned mine a little bit here. So you're going to take your panel and you're going to fold it in half. Okay, and I've already pinned this here because I know exactly where I want my height to be. So what you're trying to do here is you just want to kind of line this up nicely so you can see this is where our handles are going to begin and end. And so you've got this in half. Make sure that the sides line up nicely. Okay, now it's going to be tricky to see, you know, how do I know that these straps are even? So right about here, what I do is I then take this and I fold it over, and then I can see, are my points coming up to the same height? Yep, it's looking like it. And then I take this panel and I find it here. Now this one's a little offset, so I might have to, let me just undo this here. Okay, so my panel's like this. I'm going to fold it over, and I'm just going to start visually seeing. Okay, how do I like it? Okay, looks pretty even. And then I just do the fold test. And this is where I make sure everything lines up. So I want these 2 points at the same height. So I just adjust that fold there. And then I check to make sure, see, this one's still coming up a little bit higher, which is want to happen because, of course, this panel is an offset panel. Okay, so that's about as close as it's going to get. And right now I'm going to take my pin. Okay, and then I'm just going to secure it in the spot that I want it to be in. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And that just helps me remember where I'm stopping and starting. Whoops. There we go. Just like that. Okay, so this is the general shape of our bag. And so what we want to do now is we want to sew up the sides of our bag. Now this is reversible, so it doesn't really matter what side is the right side or the back side. And so what I'm going to do, there's always many different ways you can sew up seams or motifs. So this time around, I'm going to use the mattress stitch. So I'm just going to get a long piece of yarn, and I like to double the length, make it a little bit longer. Sometimes I even triple it just to make sure I have enough yarn. Snip off. And then I'm going to thread my yarn needle again. Okay. And I generally will like to start, doesn't really matter, but just so I can secure this spot right here, I'm going to start where my pin is. So I'm actually going to start off by inserting my needle just like that. Now I can take this pin out so it's out of the way, and I'll just tie that with a few knots there. And then I like to leave a little bit of a tail so I can weave that in afterwards. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in from the front. I'm going to match it up with the, sorry, this is the back panel, but I'm going in through the back here. Okay, then I'm going to match it up with the front panel, coming in through the back and pulling it towards me. And then I move over to the next stitch and I go in through the front, match it up with the next panel, and go out that way. And you guys have probably seen me do this many times before. So this is what I'm going to do, matching up every stitch. I'm going to go from the front to the back, from the back to the front. And I'm going to keep going until I get to the bottom there. Then I'm just going to weave in my end. Then I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And once those two sides are done, then we are ready to create our strap, and we're almost done our shoulder bag. So press pause, finish your side seams, and then I'll meet you back here shortly. Okay, so I have seamed up my sides, and this is what my bag is looking like. Isn't it cool? Creates this really kind of neat flap over design. So it is turned right side out. So I'm just gonna turn it right, I'm gonna turn it outside in so that you can see what it looks like there. So you can see where I stitched it. Now, the cool thing is it does have a neat effect. If you wanted to leave this as the outside, by all means, I mean, I still think it looks pretty cool. Now, for me, I do like having it the other way, so I'm just gonna turn mine outside or right side out. And there we have it. And I also have this little, I'm actually gonna put a lining in mine. And this is just a cute little kind of silky pillowcase that I was given, and I've just kind of outgrown using it. So I'm just going to cut it and place it as a lining. Now, this bag doesn't really need a lining, but for those of you that might want one, that's an option too. And if you're interested, I will do a tutorial on how I like to hand sew a lining into the bag. If you're curious, you can definitely also machine sew it if you are handy in that way. So now we need to talk about the final step, which is creating the strap. So that's what I'm going to take you through next, and we're just about done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring our yarn back. We're going to place a slip knot on our hook. And now you're just going to find any which one of the points that you want to work out of. So I think I'm just going to take this one here, just as easy. So what you want to do is just find the last stitch that you worked here. So remember in the corner you had 3 stitches. So this is 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. So I'm going to insert here. And that will help even things out later once we start creating the thickness to our strap. So I'm just going to slip stitch, but now instead of slip stitching, I'm going to bring this through and I'm actually just going to single crochet right away. See that? Just like that. Okay. Then you can weave that tail in afterwards. So why am I doing this? Because to create the length of our chain, or our initial chain, I'm actually going to do like a stacked single crochet all the way up. So instead of just chaining, which you can do, but I found that this method just made it a little bit sturdier and just added to the look. It just added a little bit nicer to the look. So what we're going to do is, you see the single crochet has two legs. You have a left leg and a right leg. What you're going to do is you're going to insert into the left leg like that. And you're going to pull up a loop. And then you're going to single crochet again. So a lot of times you guys will see me use this as a standing double crochet. So you'll see me do it exactly like this, a single crochet, and then I place another one on top. And then I would continue working on. In this case, I'm going to keep placing single crochets on top of each other. So I'm going to go into that left leg again, and I'm going to single crochet. So you can see it's just creating or helping to create the length that I need. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do for now. See that? So you already are starting with a nice thicker kind of baseline to work your strap. So obviously this isn't the strap alone. We're going to add more to it, but this is going to be what I call the spine of the strap. And it'll just give some extra fortification. So I'm going to go ahead and do 60 of these. And this is going to give me the length that I like for my bag. Now, what I would recommend you do is once you get to 60, maybe just like slip stitch it here and see how you like the length. Like you might want yours to be quite long. Because of the design of this bag, I actually don't want my strap to be very long. Like I'm not making this to be, for example, a crossbody bag. I'm really creating it to be a shoulder bag. So I'm not going to create it very long. So that's why I'm only going to chain up 60 of these stacked single crochets. So once I'm done that, I'm going to come back and meet up with you to take you through the next portion of creating our strap. Okay, I have completed my 60 chain lengths or stacked single crochets. So I just want to show you up close the effect here. So it kind of has this like braided effect, and it essentially has stitches on each side. So here is the top of the stitch, but then on this side here, you could also potentially pick up 2 loops, which is what we're going to do very, very shortly. And if you're curious, based on my yarn weight, what the length is, I'm just going to measure mine here. And so my strap comes up to about 17.5 inches, which is just over 44 centimeters. Okay, so now what we're going to do now is we are going to attach this end to the other point. And one thing you have to really be careful of is you don't actually want your strap to be twisted, but there will be kind of a twist because we're starting flush here. And the way we've worked our stitch, yeah. So this is the back of the stitch. See, so we started here. This is the front. So you're keeping it nice and flush. And then you want to slip stitch it here. So that way it's going to create a nice little arch. So here is what we're going to do. I just need my hook back in here. Now, just like the other point, you don't want to start right away over here. You want to be in the 3rd stitch, which is right there. So what we're going to do is we are going to slip stitch to join. Okay. And you're going to slip stitch. And then you're going to slip stitch 2 more times. So you're going to go into the next stitch and slip stitch. And you're going to go into the next stitch to slip stitch. And you'll see why in a second. Okay. So you've attached it and now you've slip stitched it. So now what we want to do is we just want to slightly turn our work. Now we're going to work down the back side of our row here. Okay. So what these 2 extra slip stitches have done is given us the height within which to begin. Let me just get that behind here. Our first linked double crochet stitch. So what we're going to do is, you can see that there's 2 stitches we've slip stitched into the second stitch here. So not the one you just worked in, into this one. You want to find a loop to insert through. That's what we're going to link to our very first official stitch here. And that might be a little tight. There we go. And so that is where I'm going to pick up that first loop. So essentially those slip stitches are acting like that first double crochet. And now we're going to go into the first stitch of this row here. So again, I just want to make sure I am not twisting it. So there we go. So I always want to pick up 2 loops, right? So here it's pretty easy. You can see 2 loops there, but you want to be careful because when you turn over, that's actually the top of the stitch there. So I'm actually going to pick up those 2 loops there, just like that, in order to pull up my next loop. Okay. And then I yarn over, pull through the first 2, and yarn over, pull through the second 2. So you've done your linked double crochet stitch and you've attached it to the base of the bag. So again, this is giving us extra fortification. So hopefully you can see that there. Okay, so now we can work our regular linked double crochet stitch into every stitch on the top here, because then we're going to work every stitch along the bottom. So as usual, we are going to insert our hook into that horizontal bar, pull up a loop. Now we're going to go into the next stitch. So remember, I want to find, there we go. I want to pick up that V. So these 2 loops, and you may need to help it along because it might be a little bit snug, just like that. And then pull through 2 and pull through 2. So now you can really see that they're linking up. So I'll do that one more time, in through the horizontal bar. See, getting through these first 2 is always the tricky part, and then it becomes easier to find where you need to be. So these are the next 2 loops. There we go. A little bit easier that time. And double crochet. There we go. That's it. So now you can see our strap is getting a little thicker. Now, don't worry, you're going to see this little bump here. Do not worry about that because we're going to come back around and work the other side. So this bump will go away. So for now, you're going to continue doing your linked double crochet stitches, 1 into each of these stitches on the top here, all the way down to where we began. And then once you get here, I'm going to meet up with you and I'm going to take you through how we're going to come back around the bottom side and also work that side of the strap. Okay, so I've come to the end here. Just want to show you guys how you can see where the bend in that corner is. So all we're going to do here is we are just going to insert our hook and slip stitch to join. And I'll leave that little extra tail in at the end. There we go. So you can see now it creates a nice, hopefully, seamless kind of join. See that? Nice and easy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue to slip stitch down the way here because I just want to smooth out this join here. And I'm going to do a 3 together stitch. And then I'm going to continue to slip stitch all the way down to the end. And then I'm going to slip stitch here, snip my yarn, and then we're going to come back and address the other side. But what I'm going to do is I will meet up with you here. For those of you that are a little newer, I'm going to take you through going through this little corner here. If you are more experienced, then you can go ahead and meet up with me when I go to the other side. And there will be markers, of course, down below. But for now, I'm going to finish slip stitching all the way to that first corner. And I'll meet you back here in a moment. Okay, so I'm just putting one more slip stitch in here before I get to that corner, or that join, I should say. So see, there's one more stitch left, and then there's a bit of a join where this stitch is, because that's where we slip stitch, and then there's another one here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna insert my hook, pull up a loop, but I'm not gonna pull through like a slip stitch. I'm gonna hang on there. Then I'm gonna go in through here, this little one here, pull up another loop, and now I'm gonna go into the next stitch, which brings my height back up. So now I have 4 loops on my hook. I'm gonna yarn over, and now I'm gonna pull through all of them. So it's kind of like a single crochet 3 together. And so that just kind of smooths that little dip and brings it up to this height. So now I'm just gonna continue slip stitching down the way. Okay, see that? So it just really smooths out that little join there. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish slip stitching, and I'll meet you guys, woo, all the way over here at the end of this side. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the inside edge here of where we began our strap. So I've got one more stitch left. I'm gonna slip stitch to join. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna snip my yarn here, okay? I'm just gonna leave myself a little bit of length. And I am going to pull through. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weave my end in so that I'm gonna make this nice and smooth there. So I'm just gonna grab my yarn needle. Okay, and then I'm gonna feed it through. Just gonna go, see where that ends there? I'm gonna go into the side of that very first stitch we did. And I'm just gonna pull it through, and I'm gonna snuggle that. See that? It's gonna look really nice and seamless. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in through the top and down into a few loops and pull it through just like that. And look at that. It looks just like a regular loop, and you can't even tell where it's been joined. Now, those of you that have followed me for quite a while, you know a lot of times I like to use this method when I'm working on projects in the round, when I'm snipping off my yarn and weaving in my ends. So just love that. See how smooth that is? All right, so I'm just gonna finish now just weaving in the rest of the way here. I'm gonna hide this tail, and then I'm gonna come back and show you how we're gonna start the other side, because as you can see how there's a jut out there? We're gonna fix that momentarily. Okay, so we're in the final stretch. So I'm gonna pick up my bag. Again, I wanna make sure that the right side is facing out, and I'm gonna bring back in my yarn. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave a bit of a tail here. And you might have to experiment with this. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get rid of this little bump here. So I worked it out that I have to go 3 stitches up. So just before it's starting to curve, I'm going to insert my hook, and I'm just going to place my yarn on the hook and pull that through. Okay, so I still have that generous tail, and that's what I want. And then I'm going to go into the next stitch and pull through there and slip stitch. Okay, so that's where my slip stitch is. And now I'm going to go into the next stitch. I'm going to pull up a loop, because now I'm going to mimic the first linked double crochet stitch. And now I'm going to go into this very first little space here, which is the bottom of our strap here. And I'm going to pull up another loop, and I'm going to work over this long tail, okay? And now I'm going to pull through 2, and now I'm going to pull through the other 2. And hopefully not too bad. So it gives us a nice little smooth finish there, okay? And now I'm ready to continue doing my linked double crochet stitches along the other side, or the bottom side of the strap. So we're facing the back here. So this is the side we completed. And now it's like we're working along the bottom end of the strap. Remember when we did those stacked single crochets, it creates 2 sets of loops. See, there we go. So those V's there are what we're going to work into. So I've already picked up the first loop. So the idea is essentially you're kind of working into the bottom of these stitches. So you just want to find the next spot here. Let me get this tail out of the way here for a second. So when you insert your hook, you always want to make sure that you've got at least, there we go, we've got those 2 loops there, and then you pull through. So I'm just going to work over my tail. And then you resolve like a linked double crochet stitch. Just like that. So it's looking pretty good. There's a little bit of a dip there. Now, that could also be I pulled slightly too tight and creates just a little bit of a dip. But we can fix that slightly once we come back around with all of our slip stitches. But I'm pretty happy in general with how that looks. And so now I'm just going to continue the rest of the way doing my linked, whoops, trying to work over that tail. My linked double crochet stitch, 1 into the bottom of each stitch all the way around. Okay, so then that's going to give you a nice fortified strap. It is going to stretch a little bit, but you can really feel it's not going anywhere. So I'm going to do that all the way around until I get to the end. Okay guys, so I have just come up to my first little join here to the body of the bag, and I'm going to join or slip stitch in a funky way just because, again, I'm trying to make the attachment of the strap as smooth looking as possible, so it almost looks seamless. That's the goal anyway. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have one more little stitch here, so I'm going to insert my hook through the bar to pull up a loop. And now I'm going to go into this last stitch here to create my last single crochet. But what I'm going to do before I yarn over is I'm actually going to go into this next little loop here. So I'm going to use this loop to pull through these 2 here. Okay, just like that. And now I'm going to pull through 2. So that's going to give me a nice kind of really sturdy and solid connection. And now I can move on to slip stitching down the way. So now into the next stitch, I'm going to just slip stitch and then slip stitch again. Just going to do a few of these. So now we're working into the tops of regular stitches. So if I pull that out, look at that. Beautiful kind of smooth join. Of course, I have to weave in this end. And there you go. I love, love, love it. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing my slip stitch around. Like I said before, I'm going to do my little 3 stitches together to smooth that out. And then I'll meet you at the very end. I just wanted to show you guys that. I know a lot of times join areas like this can be really challenging, especially if you really want a nice, smooth transition. Okay, I'm at the very end, right where we started. So I slip stitched in the very last stitch. It's actually looking pretty good. So I don't think I'm gonna have to do anything extra to make it look smooth. I'm just gonna snip my yarn here. I'm gonna pull that up, and I'm still gonna do that little seamless join trick that I love so much for projects like this. Okay, and let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under this, which was that very first slip stitch we did. Okay, pull through. Now here I want to gauge, do I need to pull it taut or not? Taut or not, that's funny. And now I'm going to go, as we saw before, I'm going to go in through the top of the next stitch. I'm going to try going down a few loops there. And then I just pull it through. Look at that, just nestles in. And guess what? Woo! That looks pretty darn smooth. I mean, it's not bad for, you know, crochet isn't always the easiest to join that way on little bumps like that, but I think that's pretty good. So I'm happy with that. So I will now just weave in this end here and make sure that it's nice and secure. And then the bag is complete. Okay, guys, are you ready for this? Here she is. The Suzy shoulder bag is complete. Look at that strap. So good. Now, again, if you wanted to make yours longer to make it a crossbody, you can definitely do that. And this strap will feel so nice over your shoulder. It's got a little bit of give, but it's super strong. So it'll be gentle on your shoulder. And look at that. So fun. This is just great for summer too. So leave me a comment in the comment box if you would like to see how I hand sew a lining into the bag, because you don't need to put a lining. I think I'm going to. Now the design, because it's got some openings, depending on what you're going to use your bag for, a lining probably would be a good call. But again, you don't have to. I mean, if you're just throwing in things like your phone, your keys, wallet, I mean, those kind of things will be okay in something like this. But if you tend to carry a lot of little things, you definitely don't want them coming out of these little openings here. But I just love this asymmetrical design kind of thing, where we took one long panel and just created a really funky looking bag. And look at how cool it looks with that variegated yarn. So good. This is going to be, I think, a super hit for summer. So let me know if you have any detailed questions, maybe something I missed or you're still kind of unsure about. Make sure, do leave it for me in the comment box down below. I really want to make sure you guys feel good anytime you do any of my designs or working on any of my projects. That's what I'm here for, is to share my love and my knowledge of crochet with you. Again, I know a lot of you guys like to email me directly. You can certainly do that. So feel free to do that at info@crochetcrafty.com. And you know the drill. Come and visit me on the website, crochetcrafty.com. Lots of free goodies for you guys. I've got sizing charts. I've got written patterns. I've got free written patterns. And make sure to sign up for my monthly newsletter, where you get a lot of behind the scenes, in-depth photos of a lot of the projects that we've done. And come say hi to me. I am on Facebook and Instagram. I spend more time on Instagram, but come say hi to me on either or. I love interacting with you guys and chit-chatting with my crochet friends. And if you are new here and you like this project, I invite you to press that subscribe button and come hang out with me every Wednesday morning when I upload a brand new video tutorial. All right, guys, that's all for this week. And stay tuned. There is that mystery project that's still on the go with the lace granny square, or the vintage lace granny square. If you have not seen that tutorial, I will leave a link for that down below. There will be a fun summer project coming up for that. So I just gave you another hint as to what it might be. All right, well, have a wonderful day. Happy crocheting as always. Take really good care of yourselves, and I will see you in next week's session. Bye-bye.